Welcome to another Rolled in Reacts episode. Customer states that they need new brake pads and maybe an alignment, but only if it doesn't cost too much. This car came in being extra musty, crusty, and rusty. Customer states, dipstick handle broke off and fixed it with some hot glue, but now dipstick is stuck. Please advise. And this customer had done their very first oil change, all by themselves, but had to come in because the oil light was on. And this customer just rolled in for an oil change and an oil change only. The owner of this truck was in because they had been towing it behind their RV and had left it in reverse, which ended up wrecking the transmission and much of the drivetrain. The owner of this Volkswagen Golf came in saying, "Car feels a bit jerky at idle, but once on the highway, it goes away." Customer states, "Hit something on the highway and ever since my battery light is on. Please advise." The mechanic found that it was a long bolt that had went straight through the undercarriage and almost split a battery cable in half. The owner of this car came in because he had starting issues and also a problem with his trailer hitch connector not working, after his friend recently tried installing a rear view camera for him. When your oil change looks like this, you better pray the insurance gods go easy on you. And apparently, someone had accidentally dropped a socket wrench inside this engine while working on it. The owner of this car wanted heated seats, so they bought a kit off of eBay and installed it themselves, but came into the shop a few weeks later saying, "I can't get rid of this locker room smell in the cab and my battery light keeps coming on." This car was in for an oil change, and when the mechanics had it on the lift, they noticed that the customer had hit something and had tried fixing the splash shield with some duct tape. This car was in because the rear plate lights had stopped working, and when the mechanics went to check on the wiring harness, they discovered the remains of the customer's 2-month-old lunch marinating in the trunk. And the owner of this car had installed some new extra lights, all by themselves, but had to come in because the car wouldn't start anymore. And this customer came in saying that their truck has started to run pretty badly ever since the last oil change. The mechanic found that whoever did the oil change ended up overfilling the engine and then some. Customer dropped off his car for some new spark plugs and also asked the mechanics to have a look at one of the tensioners for the serpentine belt because his friend had apparently said that it maybe needs to be replaced due to a weird whining sound. Customer states, "Car handles like a turd on wheels." This car rolled in like this after the owner said his wife had hit a rock while driving on a countryside road. The owner of this car came in with a clunking sound after they had apparently done some work on the suspension and outer tie rods, all by themselves. And this Mazda rolled in because it overheated after the customer poured water into the engine and coolant tank. This car rolled in with a totaled front-end suspension after the owner had hit a pothole going over 100 miles per hour, saying that they didn't see the hole because it was covered by a piece of cardboard. And the owner of this car said that their uncle had just helped them install new CV axles, but that they now have a strange rattling sound when driving. This Chevy Silverado 3500 came in because the owner said it had started to sound a lot louder than normal during acceleration. And this guy was doing a tire rotation in his very own creative way, using a pickaxe. This car came in because it had quite the engine rattle and misfire. The mechanic found a cracked piston to be the cause of the problem. Customer came in complaining about poor braking power ever since their younger brother had done some brake work on it 2 months ago. This customer had gotten a new transmission installed at another shop, but had to come in 3 days later because they just couldn't get it into drive anymore. I wonder what the problem might be. The owner of this car had to pull over as he had a coolant hose burst while he was driving to work. This customer had built his own Porsche kit car, but had to come in because it had some brake issues and quite the list of other things wrong with it. The owner of this car came in saying that he's been hearing a meowing sound all morning on his way to work and had to come in to have it checked out. Luckily, the cat was fine and ended up finding its way back home. Customer rolled in complaining about a loud noise coming from underneath their vehicle, and this is how much sludge the mechanics found inside the transfer case, which hadn't gotten new oil since it rolled out of the factory 13 years ago. The owner of this car said that his car sounds like a metallic rattlesnake, but only when he takes off. And this truck came in after the wheel almost fell off while the customer was driving to work. Customer states, my car doesn't know if it's too warm or too cold, just like my wife. Customer states, very annoying brake noise despite recently replacing brake pads. What could be causing it? Yeah, what could be causing it? Customer states, car runs rough at idle. This car got towed in because it wouldn't start, and the customer said, was in the left lane driving home from work when I suddenly heard this loud pop and the car just shut off on me. This poor car rolled in because it needed new rims and tires after the customer had driven past a construction site and hit a large bulk bag full of construction debris. Customer states, tried installing a new turbo chip but has weird electrical issues since, and the dashboard looks like the intro to the Matrix. Customer states that his trunk sounds like Chewbacca. And the owner of this truck had a midlife crisis on a budget. Customer states, my buddy did some work on my van, but I think he must have missed something. Customer states, brakes make a horrible noise anytime he brakes hard. The mechanic inspected the brakes and found that the brake pads needed replacement, but he also noticed that the customer had tried saving a few bucks by attaching cheaper brake pads onto the factory ones. This customer was in with their Jeep after it had started telling too many knock-knock jokes. Customer states, yeah, I had a clunking noise for a while, but I had a beer and fixed it myself. Nah, it's got a few more miles on it, no problem. The owner of this car rolled in because they have a strong gasoline smell in the driver's cab after another shop recently did some work on the exhaust system to fix a rattling sound. Customers said that their truck had started running rough ever since they topped off the AdBlue in it. Let us know in the comments below what you think the customer actually topped off the tank with. And this car had some brake work done by a mysterious mechanic that some call the Siliconator. And this customer came in saying that their steering wheel now identifies as a rubber banana. This 1994 Chevy pickup came in with starting problems after the customer's friend, who's a hobby electrician, had helped them fix the engine control unit, and this is the sketchy wiring job the mechanics found. And this tire rolled in all screwed up. Customer states, a friend of a friend installed a new oil pan gasket, but car now leaks more oil than it did before. Please check and advise. And this customer complained about their car being bumpy and leaning to the left. The owner of this Honda rolled in for an oil change, but when the mechanics went to remove the belly pan, they saw that the customer had secured it with the help of a few straps and plenty of inspiration from Leonard Skinner and Pabst Blue Ribbon. This car rolled in after the owner had hit a boulder on a small side road and now needs an alignment. The owner of this car had trouble rolling down the windows after their friend had installed some new speakers for them. Woo! And this car rolled in with tires and rims all beat up after the owner hadn't seen a curbside on time and had slammed into it, doing 85 miles an hour. Boiling coolant is never a good sign. And this customer came in saying that their car floods anytime it rains, even just a little bit. A little cleaning of the drains and the issue was fixed. And the owner of this Ford F350 rolled in because the battery kept draining and sometimes the truck wouldn't start after the customer had a different shop install a new starter motor for him about 2 months ago. And this shop had created some pretty cool art pieces out of some old exhaust parts. This Mercedes turbo diesel came in because the owner said that he had started getting a burnt smell when driving longer distances, and this is what the mechanic found once he had the car on the lift. Turned out to be some pretty worn out fuel injector washers. The owner of this truck came in because their electric parking brake had blown up after they accidentally engaged it while going 88 miles an hour. And this customer tried turning on their car but said that it just kept cranking and wouldn't start. The mechanics discovered that someone had done a really bad repair job on a leaky fuel pump using some electrical tape, metal wires, tie wraps, and RTV silicone. And this car didn't come in a minute too soon to get new brakes installed. Customerstates had my car parked on the street for a few days, but now it pulls to one side when braking. Customerstates had a loud noise when going over bumps, but I fixed it myself. This customer brought in their Chrysler right on time as it had just overheated due to a bad coolant hose DIY repair job. The owner of this SUV rolled in saying that it doesn't want to shut off and thinks there might be an electrical issue. Turned out to be a 5-minute job for the mechanic. Customerstates hit a pothole last week and ever since, the cab has gotten noisier. And the owner of this car had done his own oil change but had forgot the new oil filter and just installed a new O-ring on the oil filter cartridge instead, and now has an engine knock. Customerstates starting issues and does not think it's the spark plugs, since they were apparently replaced just 4 months ago. And this customer came in saying that their truck has started to run hot. The mechanics found the oil looking like pea soup and the head gasket to be done for. The owner of this Sierra pickup came in saying, "I've been getting this occasional clunking sound coming from the back for a couple months now. Could you check it out?" The owner of this Cadillac came in asking if it's supposed to smoke this much during cold starts. This truck rolled in because the customer thinks he needs a new radiator and cabin air filter because the heat in the driver's cab is very weak and it also smells like horseshit when he has the cabin fan on max. A few gallons of water and soap later and the problem was fixed. Customerstates, very hard to get the car in gear. Yeah, sure looks like it, bud. This fleet truck had been to another shop for a tire rotation, but had to come in again after the driver said the steering wheel had started to shake while doing 90 on the highway. This Kia rolled in because it kept blowing fuses whenever the customer turned on the radio. The mechanic discovered that the customer had been grocery shopping a few weeks before, and a pumpkin had parked itself right on top of the speaker amp and started to rot, which had then shorted the amp and blown the fuses. The owner of this Volkswagen Tharu rolled into the shop because they had some major brake issues after they drove down Waipio Valley Road on Hawaii after visiting the lookout point. That road is famous for being extremely steep, reaching a 45% grade at a few spots. The owner of this car brought it in for an oil change and had apparently gotten a flat as they were driving to the shop from their house. Customerstates did some suspension work together with my brother, but now car clunks hella bad. And this customer came in complaining about a burnt smell and occasional starting issues after they installed a new battery at a different shop. Customerstates, truck has major fuel leak. The mechanics discovered that someone had tried running a cable for the trailer hitch by stapling it to the undercarriage. This truck rolled in because the owner said that the cabin fan randomly shuts itself off and the low beams flickers a lot. The mechanics found the trailer hitch all beat up. And this Lotus Elise came in for some engine repairs because it had a pretty loud knock after the customer had done an oil and filter change by themselves. Apparently, they had installed the oil filter with the plastic wrapping still on, which had caused the oil pump to fail and the engine to run out of oil. And if you ever do some work on your ignition coils and one or a few of the coil boots get stuck, just use a little bit of compressed air to get them out. This customer was apparently in the shop a week prior for an exhaust leak, but declined all repairs, saying that her brother is so good with cars that he will fix it. But they still had to come in to get a new exhaust installed. This vehicle came in after the owner had tried racing their buddy at a stoplight, and apparently heard a loud metallic pop right after he floored it. This car rolled in with some pretty bad suspension problems after the customer had driven a bit too fast on a muddy and bumpy countryside road. This customer came in complaining about their van running rough, and when the mechanics went to change the oil and filter, they noticed that it hadn't been done in over 73,000 miles. This car came in on a tow truck, and the customer said, "Someone stole my battery, I need a new one." Turned out that the battery was just hiding from the customer and simply needed to be recharged. Customer states, "Son borrowed car for the weekend and now it won't move. Please advise." And this Hyundai Sonata came in because the owner said he hears a clunking sound when going over speed bumps, after another shop had installed a sportier suspension kit on it.
And ye shall not forget these words, that Jesus loves you no matter who you are or where you are in life.
This car came in with starting issues and quite the leak. Turned out that the car's battery had some suspicious holes in it, which caused the leak so strong it had started to corrode parts of the transpan. This car had apparently been in for some suspension work at another shop, but had to come in because the customer complained about a clunking sound that has just gotten worse ever since. This customer rolled in because they have strange sounds coming from their drive shaft after another local mechanic had tried to repair it not too long ago. This car rolled in because the customer complained about really loud clunks when driving, and the mechanics found the right upper strut mount to be pretty much non-existent. And the owner of this truck didn't think his AC was cool enough, so he installed another one by himself. Customer came in saying that they couldn't get the car out of gear, but luckily for them it wasn't any more complicated of a fix than this. And this guy had just finished installing a used lower control arm on his truck and was just on his way to take it to his buddy for an alignment. The owner of this car complained about their driver's cab smelling like a mix between a sweaty ballsack and cup of sour cat piss. There were no cats or ball sacks hanging around, just a pack of meat that the customer had forgot to put in the fridge. This customer came in saying, "Had to step on the brakes real hard to not hit a squirrel, but afterwards the brakes felt a bit tight." I'd have to agree. This car came in with a bit of a leak. The owner of this car came in because they said that something felt wrong with the four-wheel drive, and the mechanics discovered that the transfer case had blown itself up. Customer came in saying that they can't remember last time they had an oil change, but it wasn't that long ago. Time flies, I guess? This Kia came in because the owner said it had started knocking a lot lately, despite changing the oil regularly. Uh-oh. And this customer fixed a leaking tire by themselves, but had to come into the shop to get a new tire 4 days after this was filmed. And this car came in for an oil change, but the customer didn't mention anything to the mechanic about the state of his tires. Luckily, the customer agreed to installing new ones. The owner of this car had driven it into the shop for a repair quote, but when the mechanic said that it would be cheaper for them to just buy a new car, the customer got really upset and drove away. And this car came in with quite the list of problems. The customer ended up having to get a completely new engine and drivetrain. And this Toyota Tacoma came in with a bit of a coolant leak after the customer heard a loud bang while driving on the highway. The owner of this vehicle came in because they think their rear ball joints are bust because they hear a loud thud sound whenever they pull in and out of their driveway. Customer came in really worried, saying that he thinks the engine has a major oil leak somewhere because the dipstick is completely bone dry. Turned out to be a broken dipstick tube. The owner of this pickup truck was towing a giant metal garden gnome and decided to pass a car on the freeway when he suddenly heard a loud bang. Customer states, "My car leaks more coolant than normal. Please advise." Here's a quick tip for quick, easy, but sometimes expensive car repair. Just pretend any issues you have don't exist. Customer states, "Whining noises coming from transmission and the engine knocks a little too." This customer's Mini Cooper had an oil change at a quick lube shop, but 2 days later it couldn't start. Turned out that the other shop had broken the dipstick and it had somehow managed to dislodge the timing chain, which caused some major engine damage. Thankfully, the customer's insurance covered the costs for a new engine. This car came in with an exhaust leak after the customer had installed a new sport exhaust system by themselves. And this customer had recently been in for some repairs on the cooling system at a cheap local repair shop, but they rolled into this shop on a tow truck because the engine had overheated after the other shop had failed to tighten one of the coolant hoses properly. The owner of this car came in because they had problems with the transmission being very noisy after another shop had tried repairing a leak with some JB Weld. And if your oil comes out looking like this, you're probably in some expensive trouble. This Chevy Sonic came in with a clunking sound and steering issues after the owner's father had done some work on it. Customer states that he has problems starting his car after his friend had tried fixing an engine sound by tapping gently on the engine with a hammer. This customer came in saying that every time they turn the AC on, it smells like a retirement home and it also doesn't get very cold. This car came in with starting issues after the owner had some electrical work done at another shop. This customer's car had some brake problems after a recent repair job by another shop. The mechanics found that the other shop had overfilled the brake fluid and also used engine oil instead of brake fluid. This customer rolled in with their car because they had some major brake issues after their friend had helped them renovate the brake lines, and this is the mess that the mechanics found. The owner of this car said they had a slight thumping sound when going over bumps. This Chevy Cruze rolled in because it kept overheating after the customer accidentally topped the coolant off with transmission fluid. This Ford Expedition was brought in after the customer heard a clunk sound when going to work, after just having had a new exhaust installed by another shop 3 days before. Turns out that the other shop had missed to install a few exhaust hangers. This mechanic was changing the axle shaft on this truck and had to get a bit creative to get it out of there because the garage he was in had the car lift installed pretty close to a wall. This customer came in for some suspension work, but didn't say anything about how the car looked underneath. This is how you know it's just the right time to replace your brake rotors. This customer came in saying that whenever they step on the gas, they get a strange thudding sound and the steering wheel wiggles. This Dodge Dakota came in after the owner said that it's gotten harder and harder to drive in a straight line, after their friend had done some welding work for them. The owner of this car came in complaining about a heavy steering wheel after he had another shop install a new servo pump that he had purchased from Temu, but the other shop had been quite rough when installing it, which caused it to leak and made the steering heavy. Engine 1, customer's wallet 0. Customer came in saying that they brushed against some stones while driving on an unmarked road, and ever since the car has been louder than normal. This truck came in for a regular safety inspection and the owner said, "I've been keeping it in a heated garage since new. How's this possible?" And this customer urgently came into the shop as he thought his car was about to catch on fire after he noticed smoke coming out of the engine bay. The mechanics found the issue to be caused by a really bad wiring job. This customer came in with their fancy British car asking if there was anything they could do besides renovating the engine to stop it from knocking. The mechanic said that it was either an engine renovation, engine swap, or the junkyard, because this knock is loud. The owner of this car came in saying that they've started getting a weird sound from it during idle. Turns out that the customer came in right on time because they had a bad timing tensioner that was just about to fail completely. This customer came in complaining about their car having really bad starting issues and said, "Listen, my nephew's an awesome electrician and he usually does all my work, but he's on vacation, so I need you guys to help me out here." And the owner of this car rolled in for a safety inspection, and the technicians found that someone had tried repairing the exhaust with some silicone, one of the outer tie rod ends was hanging on for dear life, the transfer case was leaking oil, and one of the lower ball joints looked like this. The owner of this car had done an oil and filter change by himself, but came in complaining about the car now feeling sluggish when accelerating. And this customer came in complaining about their AC not working anymore after they had been parked on the street for a few days. This Citroen Berlingo came in because the customer said that the cabin fan and stereo randomly stops working after a while. The technician discovered that the carpets were soaking wet, so he tore out the interior and noticed that the car was flooded with water and that someone had welded the drain holes shut. The owner of this car finally came in to get some new tires installed after driving on factory tires for almost a decade. This Cadillac SRX came in with some starting issues after the customer's brother had tried installing a new battery for them. This truck came in after the owner complained about a clunking sound that had become worse and worse the past 2 years. This customer rolled in with their convertible saying that one of the windows has started to roll down on its own after they recently replaced a window control module. And this truck had turned itself into a steam train. Customer came in saying that they do all their own work and that their car runs so smooth you can't even hear the engine from inside the driver's cab. And this customer had built his very own portable lunch heating device. This Audi Q7 rolled in because the owner said it had started to accelerate really badly, ever since a friend of theirs had helped them with the yearly service in exchange for a bottle of whiskey. This customer's Ford F-150 came in because the air condition wasn't blowing cold anymore. Turned out that the compressor was totally seized, which had also caused the AC belts to snap. But after installing a new compressor and some belts, the AC worked fine again. This truck didn't have any rear brakes after the owner had it in for some brake work at a different shop, and they apparently just skipped reinstalling the calipers. The owner of this car had been into the shop 6 months prior because of an oil leak, and had been recommended by the mechanic to install a new valve cover gasket, but the customer declined and instead had their friend fix it with some silicone, but was now in again as the fix wasn't fixing. The owner of this car rolled in saying that they had their car in for an oil change at another local garage, but that they've had a rattling sound ever since. The mechanic found that it was because someone had dumped a bunch of cookies inside the engine bay. Customerstates floored it at a traffic light, but the car didn't shift into second gear and just kept revving until I heard a loud bang and then the engine stopped. The owner of this car apparently likes his engine oil well done. And this guy brought in his car because he said that it handles strange and the mechanics found one of the sway bar links to be disconnected from reality. And when the oil is this thick, you know it's gonna be real expensive for the customer. And this car came in because it had started to feel sluggish, said the owner. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and until next time.